On May 5th, 2023, a welfare check was requested. No one had seen or heard from Nicole in days. Packages sat untouched at her door. Her phone rang, unanswered. What seemed like a small concern quickly erupted into something much darker, because someone else was missing too.
One of our detectives coming over. Who knows where she's
Nobody's
at?
filed a missing persons complaint, no one's filed a missing person.
Right.
There's a whole bunch of phones back there. I called her phone, it was ringing. What if they have her phone? And they're just taking an answer of coming from
She's supposed to be kind of hard to get around, so it's not like the one lady said she kind of never leaves really here. She's just in this area, so.
Nicole Jones was the kind of woman many looked up to. At 53, she had spent decades working at Toledo Hospital as a phlebotomist, and now she was finally enjoying her golden years with her nieces, nephews, and her grown son Jonathon, a military veteran battling the ghosts of his past. Her life, while modest, was one of service, routine, and above all, family. That's why it was so strange, so deeply alarming, when she suddenly disappeared.
Jonathon Jones is who the kid is.
Okay.
And he's 33.
Yes.
Have you ever seen her here?
No.
All right. So that's the girl that the 17-year-old that he's with.
Okay. Who was the older gentleman then?
That's him.
That's the
This is the target. This is the guy that's wanted by Wood County.
Okay.
Jonathon. And alongside him, an underage girl with a record of running away and a history just as scarred as Jonathon's mind. Kaitlyn Coones was only 17, but her life had already read like a tragedy in motion. A child of abuse and instability, she bounced through the foster care system, slipping through the cracks at every turn.
And I know how to defend myself because I grew up in the hood of Ohio, so I know how to fight for myself. And I've been in fights with girls my age. That's the reason why I don't become friends with people my age, because it's just, no, I don't understand them.
Right. So I get it, and I have no doubt that you can defend yourself.
She ran often, chased no one's rules, and clung to the first person who made her feel wanted.
What's your first name? Jonathan. What's Jonathan? He was like, well, the two ages are really bad, I was like, actually, I know it's actually legal in Mexico, as long as the only time someone can be with someone above the age of 18 is if they're doing something sexually, then the person has to be 18 for someone to be dating somebody above 18.
Even if that person was a 33-year-old man who should have known better, especially when the law was already watching him.
This one on this corner here?
It's definitely 7456. Yeah. We got 2 U.S. Marshals there. It involves a case out of Canton. So we're trying to check the safety of her. Has anybody seen her?
No. I've only seen a guy going in and out of there. Okay,
So would we have anything listed with the manager of people to contact for an emergency?
Well, I have all her phone numbers of people that live there, but it's her phone number.
Okay, but there's nothing listed when she moved in, like an emergency, contact this person, nothing like that?
No.
So the only way we're going to get in is knocking the door down.
Jonathon Jones had been arrested just months earlier for child endangerment, among other charges, stemming from his illicit relationship with Kaitlyn. He had pleaded guilty and was waiting for sentencing, fitted with an ankle monitor, barred from contacting minors, forbidden from using the internet. But love, or obsession, laughed in the face of those restrictions. And that's when the story began to twist.
So what happened was this dude was on bond for Wood
County.
The son.
Right.
He was supposed to show up for sentencing or something like that.
Okay.
This morning, the Border Patrol stops him in Douglas, Arizona.
Okay.
With a 17-year-old that's a missing juvenile.
And she's the one reporting the murder and arson.
But they also said they burned the house down, too.
Right.
But obviously the house ain't burned down.
Right.
So right now...
So we have no idea where she is.
We don't.
Okay.
So I'm going to verify the plate comes back here of the car, the border. So the Border Patrol stopped him and said, hey, we got this one guy here, this missing juvenile. And the sheriff's office down here, they may have 2 or 3 guys. And
see if she's seen her.
They let him go.
Okay.
They're like, we don't have time. So now
Did he go into Mexico or?
I don't know. Now we're scrambling in the FBI. But then
Okay.
in the midst of that, they called and said, this murder, but they have her car.
Okay.
So that's why
So we verified that this is actually her card of
we're
this
going to do that
residence.
right now.
Okay.
We're firing up leads right now.
We got a lady that's going to check. Like you said, she's got phone numbers, and I think it's a number that's not the owner, but somebody else. And she's seeing a man going in and out of here.
That's probably her
So,
guy.
Somewhere along the line, Kaitlyn decided that nothing and no one would come between her and Jonathon. A child services worker received a text message, allegedly from Kaitlyn, confessing to 2 murders and arson. The claims were so shocking, so brutal, that at first they seemed impossible. Just a teenager playing games, a cry for help. But investigators didn't have the luxury of dismissing it, because what if she wasn't lying? As U.S. Marshals began tracing leads, it became clear Nicole Jones was not just missing, she was likely murdered, and the suspects weren't strangers. They were family. Soon the mystery stretched across some state lines, across borders, into Mexico, where 2 desperate fugitives, Jonathon and Kaitlyn, were found trying to sell jewelry on the side of the road. Nicole's jewelry. Alongside it, her ID, her credit cards, a backpack with what appeared to be blood. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to come together, and the picture they painted was nothing short of horrifying. But even then, as Kaitlyn sat in custody, her story kept shifting. First denial, then blame, on hackers, on an ex-boyfriend, on the dark web. But eventually something cracked, and when it did, what spilled out was a confession darker than anyone could have imagined.
It talks about 2 murders and arson. This is when my ex tagged in my account. I can write you his name down here. This is for the thing. This is the one that keeps texting me, and this is back from when I lived with him. He hacked my account. He works like on the dark web and stuff.
What do you mean he works in the dark web?
Like he works on the dark web. Like, you know, he hacks for people. No, but I want to know who killed her because she was a nice mom.
Like, I think we know she hasn't been seen for a while, and it says we killed 2 people. We don't know that she's dead.
Okay, but you're putting that on me when I thought she was doing perfectly fine and everything. And I told you I didn't send those messages. He's been able to hack my account.
So what we're trying to figure out.
A mother's last moments stolen as she reached for snacks in her own kitchen. And all of it done in the name of love, or something far more sinister. This is the story of how a twisted relationship and a teenage girl's obsession tore a family apart, left a mother dead, and sent 2 people to prison for life. It's about control, manipulation, and the chilling lengths people will go to in order to keep a grip on the ones they think they love. And worst of all, it's a story that ends without closure, because Nicole Jones's body has never been found. Before the headlines, before the border chases and jailhouse confessions, there was just a house on Timbers Edge Boulevard.
This information is third hand, but we know her car is in because we know the Border Patrol stopped that car down Douglas, Arizona.
It's now in Mexico?
We don't know. They're trying to find it right now. They got an airplane up and they're trying to locate it and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so it was
But
verified
this
as
is pretty concerning with the package out there and what they're saying.
Well,
and
we
I
called the fire department to 4th Century.
Has she ever seen her?
She said she's odd.
Inside that house lived Nicole Jones and her son Jonathon. Nicole was the kind of woman who went unnoticed by most until she went missing. Her life was simple, structured, full of quiet kindness. After decades working at Toledo Hospital as a phlebotomist, she had retired into a well-earned life of family and relaxation. Her world revolved around her son and her extended family, nieces, nephews, holidays, and Sunday dinners. There was no reason to think anything was wrong, except maybe there was. Jonathon Jones wasn't doing as well. At 33, he was a man caught between 2 worlds, the soldier he once was and the damaged man he had become. A veteran of the Afghanistan war, he returned home with invisible wounds, post-traumatic stress disorder, and a fractured sense of identity. From 2009 to 2013, he served his country. When he came back, he struggled to serve himself. Unable to keep a steady job reliant on disability benefits, and back living with his mother, Jonathon's life had quietly unraveled. Still, Nicole did what mothers do. She supported him, housed him, and tried to protect him. She might have even believed she could help him get back on his feet, but she couldn't see what was coming, because into Jonathon's damaged life walked Kaitlyn Coones. Kaitlyn was 17 years old when the two met, troubled, volatile, and broken in ways that even her caseworkers struggled to understand. Placed in foster care after enduring a childhood marked by abuse and neglect, Kaitlyn had a reputation for running away.
And like I know how to defend myself because like I grew up in the hood of Ohio, so like I know how to fight for myself. And you know, I've been in fights with girls my age. That's the reason why I don't become friends with people my age, because it's just, no, I don't understand them.
Right. So I get it, and I have no doubt that you can defend yourself.
This wasn't just a troubled teen with abandonment issues. This was someone willing to destroy anything that stood in her way, including the one person who had stood by Jonathon when no one else would. Nicole didn't know she was living with a fuse about to blow. The night Kaitlyn Coones crept back into the Jones home, everything was already set in motion. She didn't ring the bell or knock on the door. She didn't want Nicole to know she was there. Slipping through a window like a ghost of chaos, Kaitlyn entered quietly, determined and dangerous. This time, she wasn't just running away from foster care. She was running towards something darker. She had made up her mind. Kaitlyn issued the ultimatum with a cold clarity that belied her age. "You have 5 hours to kill your mom," she told Jonathon. Just 5 hours to destroy the only person who had ever truly taken care of him. When the 5 hours expired and Jonathon still hadn't acted, Kaitlyn took matters into her own hands. She grabbed Nicole by the neck and began to strangle her. Nicole, caught completely off guard, fought back, but Kaitlyn was relentless.
That you strangled her. How did you do that? Okay, where was she when that happened?
She was trying to get something out of the fridge, and I flipped her over and started doing it, and then I took the rock that I had, got right on the floor, and I just started throwing it at her head.
Is that what the scratches are on your arm?
I don't know what these are.
No. Remember, like, if you lift up your sleeve, the other ones, are they from her?
No.
No?
Oh, these are self-harm marks.
Okay.
Yeah. Did she fight at all?
Yeah.
What? Did she fight you at all? She was very in shock, so she didn't fight. Like, the only thing I remember is the, like, hackling with blood up in her mouth, like.
The two struggled, a chaotic tangle of limbs and panic, until Nicole fell to the floor, gasping for breath. Kaitlyn didn't stop. She had come prepared. From her bag, she retrieved a rock. Yes, a rock. One she had brought for this very moment, and she used it. Over and over, she brought the rock down onto Nicole's head. The room went silent. The house, once a haven, was now a tomb.
Was that after she was hit with the rock? Did that happen?
Yeah, and then there was, like, blood clots that started coming out of her.
Out of where?
I think it came out of her mouth. They were, like, really big.
Okay. How long would you say that you strangled her for before you hit her with the rock?
I did it for 5 minutes, hit her with the rock, and then I kept strangling her. And then after that, after strangling her for like a good, like at least 10 minutes, I started banging really hard with the rock again.
Okay.
When Kaitlyn told Jonathon what she had done, he vomited. Maybe from shock, maybe from guilt, maybe from the sudden realization that the girl he thought he loved had just committed an unthinkable act. But he didn't run. He didn't call the police. Instead, he joined her in the aftermath. Together, they began to clean. They mopped, they wiped. They made a list of supplies and headed to the nearest Lowe's to buy tarps and bleach. In between, they stopped at McDonald's, because even killers get hungry apparently. Then they returned to the scene and continued scrubbing away the evidence of the horror they had just unleashed. Jonathon, who had been wearing an ankle monitor, knew their time was limited, so they stuffed Nicole's body into the trunk of her own car, a 2021 Buick Enclave, and took off. They drove aimlessly at first, uncertain of what came next until a plan began to form. They would run, far, fast, across state lines, out of the country, all the way to Mexico. But Nicole wasn't forgotten. Her blood still lingered in the house. Her car was gone. and soon her absence was noticed. On May 5th, police entered the home after a welfare check request.
Hi.
Would you happen to be like the property manager?
Well, our property manager doesn't live here. Why would you need?
We were going to need to try to get into a house here on Timber's Edge, 7456. There's some circumstances where we need to check the interior.
Nobody has a key to anybody else's place.
Even the manager?
No.
All right.
I will make a call though.
Okay, if you would. And
What's the address?
7456 Timber's Edge.
7456, the one right here on the corner?
No,
Oh.
we're over here. Very first one coming in.
Oh, yeah, she has dementia really bad.
Who?
Okay, so if you're talking.
No, it's the very first one coming in.
We might have the wrong place.
No, it's not. It's the very first one on the left when you come in.
But she's saying there's a lady with the
Okay, all right. So,
with the black cards.
that one.
Yes.
You don't have keys, but I have not seen her in forever.
Okay.
We might have the wrong address, is what I'm saying.
Okay. This one on this corner right
No,
here.
it's definitely 7456.
Yeah.
We got 2 U.S. Marshals there. It involves a case out of Canton. So we're trying to check the safety of her. Has anybody seen her?
No, I've only seen a guy going in and out of there. Okay, so
So would we have anything listed with the manager of people to contact for an emergency?
Well, I have all her phone numbers of people that live there, but it's her phone number.
Okay, but there's nothing listed when she moved in, like an emergency, contact this person, nothing like that?
No.
So the only way we're going to get in is knocking the door down.
Yeah. Now I will tell you, the police had to come to a house over there next to mine, and they went through the sunroom.
The sunroom is open, but the door leading into the main place is locked.
Yeah. I don't know what to tell you other than, I mean, I can get a phone number for the people that live there.
Maybe there's a gentleman's number.
There could be.
Okay,
let
if
me
you
go
could.
I live around the corner, so let me go get it.
Okay.
I don't want to lock myself out here.
And do you think this one person you've never seen, does her
Well,
neighbor know her?
I've seen her. I have not seen her in a long time. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
Nicole was gone. The house was oddly clean, too clean. Her son was missing. Her car, too. And Kaitlyn Coones, the runaway teen with a past, and now, it seemed, a body count, had vanished. Then came the text message. I just killed 2 people and did 2 arsons. I'm in deep trouble. That's when everything changed. The law no longer saw this as a missing persons case. It became a manhunt. Nicole's murder wasn't just senseless. It was calculated. Executed by a girl with a plan, a weapon, and a willingness to kill to keep what she wanted. But as they sped south in Nicole's stolen SUV, they didn't realize how quickly justice was closing in. By the time the authorities pieced together what had likely happened inside the Jones home, Kaitlyn Coones and Jonathon Jones were already gone, vanished like shadows at sunrise. Their destination was desperate and clear: Mexico. But their method? Sloppy, impulsive, and doomed from the start. Kaitlyn and Jonathon hit the road, stopping only for gas, cheap food, and the occasional pawn-worthy item.
To the money he saved up or whatever to, get there to Mexico. And we had a good experience. Like, we ate Mexican food, we stayed here and there, it was a good experience. But like I said, I thought we were good for the most part because I've seen a lot of Militar and Policia.
Nicole's jewelry, once worn proudly by a woman who had survived hardship.
And what about the jewelry?
Nothing. I don't think anything sold of the jewelry. That's when we got stopped, because we slept in the car. We woke up the next morning. We were about to go use the bathroom. That's when the Policia showed up.
What kind of jewelry were you trying to sell?
Old ancient jewelry that I had. Not ancient, sorry. It was old jewelry, charm bracelet, rings, the rings that girls are.
Instead of the jewelry that you had?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And raised a son, was now reduced to currency, peddled for cash on the roadside. But their greatest mistake wasn't the getaway vehicle or the paper trail they left behind. It was the belief that no one was watching. Jonathon's ankle monitor, still operational until he disabled it, had given authorities a rough map of his movement in the hours after Nicole disappeared. They tracked him to the southern border, and soon after, agents at Douglas, Arizona flagged a suspicious vehicle. A man in his 30s traveling with a teenage girl, driving a car registered to a missing woman. When questioned, Jonathon gave vague answers. Kaitlyn smiled, lied, spun stories about vacations and borrowed vehicles. But something didn't sit right. And when Mexican authorities later spotted the pair on the streets of Chihuahua, selling jewelry like drifters, the alarm bells went off. The two were picked up, disheveled, cornered, and holding items that clearly didn't belong to them. Nicole's ID, her credit cards, her belongings. A backpack with what looked like blood was found among their things. Marijuana too. It was enough to detain them, and that was all the law needed. Kaitlyn, being a minor and an American citizen, was returned across the border immediately. Jonathon followed soon after. Both were handed off to waiting detectives. The real questioning began. Kaitlyn tried to keep the mask on. First, she claimed the murder confession text wasn't hers. Someone hacked her account, she said. An ex-boyfriend, someone from the dark web, someone out to destroy her.
We don't know.
No, but I want to know who killed her because she was a nice mom.
I'm saying, we know she hasn't been seen for a while, and it says we killed two people. We don't know that she's dead.
Okay, but you're putting that on me when I thought she was doing perfectly fine and everything. And I told you I didn't send those messages. He's been able to hack my account.
So what we're trying to figure out is what happened and where she could be.
The excuses grew wilder with every breath, but detectives had heard it all before. They pressed, they pushed, they laid down the evidence piece by piece. Bloodstains, timelines, GPS tracking, confessions from others. Slowly, Kaitlyn unraveled, and when she did, it came out all at once. She described the murder, the 5-hour countdown.
Told him that I gave him 5 hours. I ran away from the independent living house, and I told him he had 5 hours, to kill her, and he told me that he couldn't do it because that was his mom, so he wouldn't do it. So I strangled her out, and I took her rock and banged her head a whole bunch of times. And then I told him about it, and he was shocked. So then I let him give him a moment. He threw up, and then we went to go get cleaning supplies that I cashed out and stuff. And then we cleaned up the body, cleaned up everything in the house. We disposed her body in a trash dumpster, and he couldn't do it, so I was the one that put the body in the trash. And then after that, we took his ankle thing off, and then we went on the run. And most of the way, he was really struggling with it because it was his mom, and he needed marijuana. And that's the reason why, there was marijuana mummies in the car when they tried to get into Mexico.
The way Nicole looked when she reached into the fridge, the way the rock felt in her hand, the cleaning, the fast food run, the escape. Jonathon, interviewed separately, didn't know Kaitlyn had already confessed, so he stuck to the script. My mom was fine, he said. She gave us the car, the jewelry, everything. It was a lie so flimsy, so desperate, it broke under the weight of its own absurdity. When detectives told him Kaitlyn had already talked, Jonathon broke down. He confessed to his part. Not the killing, but the cover-up, the tarp, the McDonald's, driving around with his mother's body in the trunk before dumping her behind an apartment complex dumpster like discarded trash.
Something, I don't know exactly what it was, but definitely sounded like a voice struggling. The voice struggling? Yeah, like somebody getting hit or something. It just, through the door and everything, it just sounded like, oh.
What about iron?
We bought a mop, pine saw, bleach, a scrub brush. I think that was it. Then we went over to Lowe's and bought 2 tarps. Okay. One to grab the body and one to put in the back of the car. Actually, it was like a little deal they had going on for the 2 of them. Get 2 of them for like $20 or $15 or something like that. Did head out there to get something to eat because I needed to get out of the house and try to process everything, so we went up there for food again.
So you had to walk there?
Yeah. No, we drove up there with
your mom?
got snuck out. We went back to the house and we hung out until about midnight.
Okay.
And then we went to, I can't think of.
Even then, the body was never found. And that perhaps is the darkest shadow that still looms over this case. The fact that Nicole Jones, a mother, a caregiver, a quiet figure in a quiet town, was murdered and discarded, and her remains never recovered. The news swept through Sylvania Township like wildfire. Shock gave way to grief. Grief gave way to outrage. Nicole's family was livid, especially when they discovered that police hadn't begun searching for her until days after she vanished.
I don't know, man.
I got one of our detectives coming over. Who knows where she's
Nobody's
at?
filed a missing persons complaint, no one's filed a missing person.
Right.
There's a whole bunch of phones back there. I called her phone, it was ringing. What if they have her phone? And they're just taking an answer of coming from
She's supposed to be kind of hard to get around, so it's not like the one lady said she kind of never leaves really here. She's just in this area, so.
They can.
Ping it?
Yeah. Like an emergency one. Emergency check.
Despite early warnings and obvious red flags. And Kaitlyn? She wasn't finished spinning stories. In one final twist, she claimed to have killed another person, someone in Arizona, in a drive-by.
I also killed another person in Arizona in a drive-by. I don't know who it was. Also committed 2 arsons in Arizona in the middle of nowhere. Don't know where that was either. I, loaded the gun and stuff and shot the person, and I left real fast, and then after that I washed off the residue of the gunpowder.
Are you certain that they're deceased?
I don't know what happened. I just remember pulling out the gun out of the window and shooting.
Was the male, woman, old, young?
I think it was a woman.
Do you remember how old she was?
She looked old and she had glasses. She was by the bus stop.
Is there a reason, that precipitated it, that made you do it?
I don't know. I was like, well, I killed someone, so I might as well kill another.
But no evidence surfaced, no bodies, no leads. Just more noise from a teenager who had already proven her capacity to destroy lives with lies and manipulation. As the authorities prepared to bring the two to justice, the courtroom would soon become the next battleground, and the trial would not only seek justice for Nicole, it would ask the terrifying question no one wanted to confront. How much blame does a minor bear when love turns into murder? When Kaitlyn Coones and Jonathon Jones stood before the court, they looked like opposites on paper. A teenage girl from a fractured past, a war veteran turned sex offender. But the crime that united them had erased any illusion of innocence or sympathy. Together, they were monsters in the eyes of the community, and now the justice system had to decide their fate. Kaitlyn was charged with aggravated murder and a list of accompanying felonies: abuse of a corpse, tampering with evidence, obstruction of justice, and more. The fact that she was 17 did not grant her the mercy some might expect. She was charged as an adult. Her confession was too graphic, too deliberate, too chilling to ignore. Jonathon faced similar charges, also murder, despite not having physically committed the act. His crime was enabling, participating in the cover-up, and failing to stop what he knew was inevitable. His prior conviction involving Kaitlyn and the disturbing content on his devices painted a portrait of a man not just broken, but dangerous. He was no bystander. In the courtroom, Kaitlyn initially pleaded not guilty. Perhaps she hoped to convince the world she was a victim of manipulation herself, that she was pushed too far, that her actions were those of a traumatized girl trying to preserve love in the only way she knew how, by destroying its obstacles. But the evidence was insurmountable. There were GPS records, there were text messages, there were confessions, there was blood. There was no body true, but the trail they left behind was thick with digital and physical fingerprints. Every motion Kaitlyn made in the name of affection had been a step closer to annihilation. Eventually, she changed her plea to no contest. Jonathon did the same. The court accepted it, and in doing so, sentenced them both to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years.
Only happened after the completion of count 1, the aggravated murder, and therefore the court would be completely justified in putting that sentence as a consecutive sentence. But the agreement is a life sentence with parole eligibility after serving a full 25 years. And as Ms. Liptak Wilson, as you just articulated, that was the spirit of the agreement. They will serve a 25-year sentence. And that would be the mandatory sentence.
A sentence that, while severe, also offered a sliver of hope, perhaps a controversial one, for redemption in a distant future neither could clearly imagine. Nicole's family sat in court, hollowed by grief, furious at a system that they felt failed them. In interviews, they described Nicole as someone who always put others first. Her kindness had been her undoing. She let Jonathon live in her home. She tried to keep him safe. She tried, even when he was falling into darkness, to be his anchor. Instead, she became his victim. Outside the courtroom, people speculated. Some believed Jonathon had played a more direct role in the killing than Kaitlyn admitted, that her confession, full of details, might have been part love, part strategy, to take the fall as a minor and protect her soulmate. It's a theory that still lingers, but legally it no longer mattered. What mattered was that a woman was dead, her body missing, and her killers locked away. What mattered was the trail of trauma, emotional, social, institutional, that this case carved through families, foster care, and the military community alike. A reminder that beneath the surface of every quiet home, danger might be waiting, not in strangers, but in those closest to us. The tale of Jonathon Jones and Kaitlyn Coones is not just another true crime to gawk at. It's a devastating examination of broken systems and broken people colliding in the worst possible way. It's about how unresolved trauma can morph into pathology, how vulnerability can become a weapon, and how obsession, especially when masked as love, can become deadly. Nicole Jones didn't die in a drug deal gone bad. She wasn't a victim of random violence. She was killed in her own kitchen by a girl who wanted her gone and by a son who failed to stop it. A son she sheltered, a son she fed, a son she trusted. Kaitlyn's story is equally tragic, not in justification, but in roots. A girl who never had a stable home, who learned early that manipulation was survival, who was denied protection by nearly every adult authority, and then chose to become the predator herself. They were caught selling trinkets on a dusty Mexican roadside, as if running from the consequences meant they could start again. But justice crossed borders. Now they sit in separate cells, separated by concrete and iron and years of regret. Whether either of them truly understands what they did is a mystery. Whether they care is another. Nicole Jones, meanwhile, is still missing. Her remains never found. Her memory held tightly by a family who will never stop wondering where she is, or why no one stopped this madness before it spiraled out of control. This is not a tale of lovers. It is a cautionary epic, a brutal reminder that darkness can bloom in the name of love. And sometimes the people you let into your home are the ones who will burn it to the ground.